Welcome back to the eSports Report presented by Xbox One. It is Puckett and Benson here at the desk today. And we just went through our first two matches. FaZe, of course, with the 3-0 over Elevate. Orbit getting some help from Epsilon in round 11, game 5.
A little bit of help.
Able to get their first win in the Pro League.
Yeah, they were graced, that's for sure. Epsilon struggling a little bit, but up next in the day was another team who'd started off with a pretty slow start. It was Team Caliber. 0-2, again, another big game for them.
Yeah, now this game was pretty fun to watch. Going up against, some really talented guys over on Isolation who have been able to win games while getting outslayed. TK was off to a pretty hot start. ISO in the middle of the game, able to bring it back, and it was basically all tied up going into the last minute and 15 seconds. Llama God, though, caught fire. In the last 3 minutes of this game, he really started taking it over, and you can kind of watch the action here as you have 12 seconds left on this bottom hill. TK still with the lead, but this is where ISO shows just how strong of a team they're going to be in this league.
And more importantly, you can see on that minimap that it's TK who kind of has that rotation. They have the setup ready for the final hard point in the game. They're only down by 3 points. It's absolutely nothing at that point. They just need to try and kill a couple of waves of players. And as you said, all of a sudden, ISO just step up out of nowhere. They break the hill on the first push. That's the key here, is that they do it on the first push. They don't have to, get taken down, go into a second wave, reset, and they can get a lot of momentum from a play like that. And, as soon as you do it, you see everyone just kind of lights it up.
And this was all Llama God and Silly, as you can watch them at the top. Havoc getting some kills around the outside, but this was just another showing of how clutch Llama God and Silly have been for this Isolation team. You saw them at the relegation tournament clutching up to get them into the Pro League. Here was a fantastic way to close out the game against Team Caliber. On the other side, I was really impressed with how even TK was playing. There was no superstar on the slaying end. Everyone kind of contributing to the work, but they simply kind of let it go in the last minute and a half.
Previously, when we've looked at TK, especially in Hardpoint, you've had Nameless, who's been standing out. He dropped a 50 bomb on day 1. He then dropped, I think it was like 48 kills.
Yeah,
he was like
47.
2 kills. Yeah, he was like 3 kills away from another 50 bomb. So there's been that big discrepancy between the whole team, whereas in that game, as you said, very even, but they're still losing, which is an issue.
So, Isolation, proven to me in that game 1, they are still the best team in Hardpoint outside of Optic Gaming.
Yeah, they're good. You have to admit, being able to get outslayed and still clutching up and winning those key gunfights when they need to, it's a good trait to have in a team.
Game 2, though, one of the most entertaining to watch. Another chaotic one. Early in the game, it was Havoc running around picking up 3 kills at a time. At this point in the game, going into round 10, he was 11-8, living up to his S&D hype. But Team Caliber doing a great job to force, well, I guess they had the lead at this point. It was going back and forth earlier, but to take the lead going into this round 10, this turned a little bit chaotic, though, as Silly took over the game.
In charge of clearing the middle. The teammates all going to be rotating through, and here comes the first.
And we're just going to crank up the volume a little bit. Here's the cast from Maven and I last night.
Bring it over to Neslo at B. They team up. Havoc out of the action now. And you have Theory, who's supposed to watch the flank. He doesn't know it, but 2 players are about to peek. Here's some action. Theory picks up the kill. 2 down already for ISO. Theory's going to converge on a 3rd. As you see Theory doing the damage all up to Silly. This should be TK's game.
Yep, Silly going to march across the entire map here, unless he can somehow stop the defeat or stop the plan. Oh, okay, never mind. That was disgusting.
Okay, Silly.
Gets 2. Bomb down. He saw him dash across. He's got to push this. He might be able to catch him. All of a sudden, it's a 1v1. Can Silly get the 1 versus 4 and push to round 11?
All right, we saw how smart Dito was when it came down to a 1v1. What is Theory going to do?
Theory's shaking in his goddamn boots right now. He's like, where is this guy going to come from?
No hit markers, right? So he doesn't think Silly's on it. Silly, too freaking smart. He gets the ace.
And this was absolutely enormous right there. 1v4, like, we said it. 4 up versus Silly. This should be TK's game in the bag.
It should have been, but Silly had other ideas. Of course, it forces around 11, and at this point, you kind of look at it and you think, okay, well, he's just clutched a 1v4. They're going to have a lot of momentum coming into this, but got to give TK a lot of props. They stayed composed. They didn't let that affect their gameplay in this final round.
And it was a huge start. Havoc had been causing so much chaos, ripping up the B Street and getting back into the TK base every round. You saw TK learn from it. They put a player on catwalk, shut down Havoc immediately, Nameless was able to connect with the grenades on Lamagod, instantly gave him a 4-2 advantage, and they didn't choke the final round. Silly, though, this was the moment. I was like, is he going to do it again, man? Able to pick up Theory, was about to pick up his second kill, but there just wasn't enough time, and the teammates just weren't close enough. But this man right here, so much potential. You saw the 1v3 versus Prof at relegation.
Yeah.
Here's a 1v4 to kick off just their second night of Pro League.
Again, he makes it into that kind of top 5 place. You know, week 1, MLG Pro League Season 3, 1v4 with a defuse as well. Like, that's just so impressive. But TK learned from their mistakes in that 10th round. They're not going to allow that to happen.
And here he was, like Silly again. 1v, or it was a 2v3 at that point.
It was a 2v4, he picks up the first kill, makes it a 2v3, then makes it a 2v2.
And picks up one more. So Maven and I were losing it right here. The time it's out, had to go get the kill, and Nameless this time around is not going to challenge. That's about as close as it can get for TK. Going into a round 10 when you're up, choking a 1v4, and then almost letting Silly do it to you again in round 11.
TK, so far in the season, have been doing a good job of winning those search and destroys, which is kind of interesting since they've still been losing. You know, those map number 2s, they've been a good job of holding them. But that one definitely wasn't easy by any means. But still, managed to get the win in search and destroy. And it kind of, with the roster change they made, kind of going back to that old school team caliber,
yeah,
it's what they were so good at was search and destroy. If you kind of remember back into the previous titles, they were so clutch at winning search and destroy. It was other areas that they struggle, and it's strange to kind of see that back again now.
Silly is the man. He was the player to watch for me last night. You saw him clutch up game 1. He provided some nasty highlights there from game number 2. Game 3, though, pretty boring. It looked like isolation. Fast break off the get-go, able to get 2 points in. No one has middle map control. Everyone from TK spawns out. You get Theory, who just takes the drone, ties it up. He and Neslo are just piling on points. Each of them finished with 6 captures as TK goes on to win 16-8. So, wow, this series went sour really quick for Isolation, but again, I was impressed with their ability to bring back in hardpoints.
Yeah, hardpoint just seems to be such a good game for them, and I mean, they ultimately go into a biolab hardpoint, you know, after winning the first map, losing 2 on the trot, down 2-1, need to win this to force a game 5. Do just that, a 241 to 187 win for them. Sounds pretty convincing on paper. What was it actually like in the game? Was it as dominating as that scoreline suggests?
Yeah, it was pretty much in their favor the entire way through. It was a little bit close early on, but they do a great job of locking down blue. I think we saw a bunch of teams kind of locking things down. FaZe, you saw it on Solar in the late half of the game. This time it was the Isolation squad locking down blue on that second rotation. So they clutch up again, looking incredible in hardpoint. I think, you know, we're looking at all these teams. We're trying to identify their strengths and weaknesses. Isolation's strength is clearly their hardpoint game right now. Their weaknesses seems to be spread across search and destroy and uplink here, but I was expecting ISO to be able to come back and win this game number 5. They started things off with a hot 3-0 on Skyrise. From there, though, it was TK storming right back. 3 straight rounds. A lot of sniper challenges were going down between Silly and Theory throughout this one. But here's a look at round 10. Guess who's left alive once again in the 1v1? It's Silly. Theory on the other side for TK. You see Silly go for the bomb defuse, just faking it, seeing if Theory's going to come check. Theory does check, but the time ticking down. Theory played this one beautifully, able to get the kill despite burning the time off as well, and was able to lock it up for them 6-4. I have to say, though, this whole map, the reason Isolation lost was the explosions. They were constantly getting taken out by the canisters. It happened on both sides, but ISO, it was the later half of the rounds. You saw Lamagod 3 times die down low with the bomb.
Wow. I feel sorry for Silly there, especially in that 1v1, because you see him peek, and he kind of second-guessed himself a little bit and went back in. If he'd have stayed out, maybe he gets that kill and the defuse in time. But, you know, props to Theory. Very intelligent 1v1 player. And, you know, more importantly, that gave TK their first win in the league. And we took a look yesterday about how important good starts are. I want to just reiterate that once again. Go all the way back to Season 1, Chris. You look at teams who had poor starts in the season. You know, Rise with an 0-6 start, Week 1. They finished 20-24, 8th place. double first rounded at the season finals. Optic Nation, 1-5, finished last place, a 12-32 record. TK, 1-5, they finished 6th place, they're the exception. They were the exception. They finished 3rd at playoffs. Yeah. So props to them. They can come back from it. AR though, in season 1, 2-4, they go 19-25, 10th place. They don't qualify. Season 2, very similar kind of stuff. Envy, 1-5 in the week 1. They finished 22-22, 7th place, double first rounded. Prof, 2-4, 16-28, 10th place. Same with TCM, 2-4. Yes, they get to 5th place, but they get to the finals and they get double first round.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I take away from this is the fact that only one team was able to finish with a positive record after starting off so poorly.
Right.
That was TCM last season with their incredible finish after adding Mad Cat.
But it's more important this season as well, because you have to remember, only 22 games as opposed to 44. So an 0-3 start for Epsilon is basically an 0-6 start in season 1 and season 2.
Right.
And that is just not a hole you want to be digging yourself out of. They need to get some wins, and they need to get to 3-3 in the next 3 games. Otherwise, I really think they're going to be one of those teams at the end of the season who are desperately fighting, relying on other teams to kind of drop a couple of maps here and there. And I feel like as a player that you don't want to be in a position like that. You want it to be as comfortable as possible. So
yeah.
They need to get those wins soon.
So, big night for Team Caliber. This is a confidence builder, I hope.
Massively.
It went to Game 5. I ended up playing some games with Sharp late at night. He was just saying, yo, that series was just chaos. He's like, it's so frustrating playing against the SMGs from that squad. But he said they didn't panic, and that's what he liked most about his team was, despite being down 3-0 Game 5, they were able to come back and mount that comeback. So,
props to them.
TK, group of veterans. It's not the flashiest team. It's not the sexiest team. It's a squad we've seen over and over again. Not the best start in week 1, but at least they're able to get 1 win. The last match we got to talk about, though, here is between Optic Nation and this Envy squad. Envy looking really good on that first night. Going up against Optic Gaming, round 11, game 5, showing what they're capable of. I thought last night, though, the real story of this was all Octane. It was the Octane show from start to finish. Even in their game 1 loss, Optic Nation's able to win this. Octane, above 40 kills.
Oh, 46 kills he finishes with. That's impressive. 6 caps and 7 defends, but it's for the loss. So you have to, bear that in mind. Optic Nation looking to try and continue on a little bit of a lukewarm start as opposed to freezing cold starts we've previously seen.
Yeah, it was Embo's kind of stepping up in that first hard point, which was a bit surprising for me. Moch was right there as well. They made sure Moch was not able to host. Didn't seem to affect him. Able to slay very well off host. Search and Destroy, though. After starting off very well in that first hard point, Optic Nation crushed Envy on retreat, Search and Destroy. They get first blood 6 times. They win this one 6-1 overall. But just look at the maps here, and here's a look at how crucial first bloods have been throughout Season 3 so far in Search and Destroy.
Biolab is huge. You get first blood in that map 82% of the time, you're winning that round. Of course, Detroit right at the bottom, not applicable, hasn't been played so far, but the overall success rate if you get first blood averages out 73%, so you can see how important it is, and Optic Nation really proved that. They win 6 rounds, and every single round they won, they got first blood. It's so basic. It really is, because it's common sense, Yeah. You get that first kill.
You make it 3 on 4.
Guess what? You have a higher chance of winning. Surprise! Who saw that coming? Like, it really is an important part of the game, and Optic Nation doing it so well, which is strange because you looked at when the killer was on the team, you thought, oh, this team's going to be great in Search and Destroy. They bring on Moch primarily for his respawn purposes, but what that's done actually is enhance that Search and Destroy to a whole nother level.
And I was really impressed with the way Optic Nation was playing this. Big kills going down constantly. Moch had another great game. Embos and Ricky doing a good job with the bomb in this one. But Optic Nation, very impressed with the way that they've started the season. They came in with a 1-0 record on the night. Here they were trying to go up 2-0. But game number 3, Octane turned the tide, and it was all done with the bow. A few days ago, we broke down this map, Parliament, talking about uplink, how the Sentinel spawn has the advantage. That's the opposite direction that Octane is going from. Octane locked out Optic Nation, did not allow them anywhere near his base. It was tied up going into the end of the half, and look how many kills he has already. 21 and 6 on a 4 streak, make it 5 streak to end that round. On the second side, once they had the better kind of map presence. You saw Looney able to tack on multiple points, and again, it's Octane all over that kill feed every time.
Some great support from him with the Bal, and he ultimately ends up finishing the game with 42 kills, ties the record for the season, and also Pro League as a whole, of course, Formal earlier on. The key for me, though, is you look at that game, and there was no one massively slacking. Aqua, it seemed like he had 17 kills towards the end, but you compare that to Formal a couple of days ago, and he had Crim dropping 9 kills.
Right.
Octane's done that with everyone kind of doing their role, no one massively underperforming. That's an impressive performance from him.
Octane was on last night. We'll just say that. After that game, I tweeted him, I was like, bro, can I get some Bal tips? Like, how do I get better? And everyone, like, on Twitter came back flaming him. They're like, it's easy. You just post up at a head glitch and you bait your teammates. That's not what he was doing. He was taking over the game, challenging one-on-twos, winning those with confidence. I was really impressed with the way that he just maintained such powerful presence on that map, and I think that's really going to become the secret to Parliament. Whoever has the strongest Bal and whoever can stop the opponent from getting to the drone on Sentinel side is going to win this game. In comparison, 42 kills from Octane, just 26 from Moch, and that was the most you saw from Optic Nation.
I mean, yeah, that sums it up. On a map that size with so many different lines of sight, I mean, there's corridors where you can see essentially across the map, and if Octane's shot is on and Moch's isn't, you know he's going to be winning them all the time. Opens up the map, and as you said, more importantly, on the weaker side, it's kind of a different way you have to look at it. It's kind of play to reduce the amount of points scored, and that's exactly what he did, and he did it so well.
So, Envy still in it, but Optic Nation looks like they should close it out. In fact, Game 4, I thought this series was done. There was no way Envy was going to come back down by about 15 points going into the last hill. Look at Envy fighting tooth and nail for every single second. Looney had some huge kills. This is when he pushed out, got this player. There's 2 up on the catwalk, able to take out the first one, injures the second, and his teammates were there to help out. This one, the nail biter, 183 to 182. Nation blowing a huge lead in the final 2 minutes.
That's Heartbreak City really for Optic Nation. Aqua goes on a 5 streak as well in the final hard point to lock it down, winning some crucial gunfights. And at that point, you know, you look at the series all tied up, 2-2. Optic Nation having such a successful first search and destroy. I feel like that's such a blow to your momentum. They're going into that Game 5. In my personal opinion, I would have expected them to struggle.
It was pretty crazy to watch, and I don't ever remember really watching a Solar where a team was able to mount a 15-plus point comeback in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah, that doesn't happen that much. It makes it even more impressive.
The reason they were able to do it, Envy was confident enough to push out of the hill rather than letting the contest come into them.
Which you need to do.
And I think if you saw a single contest from Optic Nation in the last 3 fights, they win that game or they tie at 182 apiece. So props to the way that Envy held in the final minute. That ties up our series 2-2. Optic Nation on tilt. Game 5, not even close. 6-1. The opposite of what we saw in game number 2. This time it's Envy taking it. Octane again leading the lobby 10-4. The man is a monster when you put a Bal in his hand.
I think that's a worry, though, for Optic Nation is how psychologically they allow a loss like that to affect them in the next game. I think that's always been something where teams or players look at them and they think, you know, they just came off a horrible 1-point loss. Chances are they're not going to be able to recover. And that was the case there. Envy just crushed them. 6-1. Kind of get a little bit of revenge from Game 2 when they got 6-1 themselves. So Envy starting off very well in the Pro League. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's missed opportunities. Should have closed it out in Game 4. Game 3, they never really stood a chance in Parliament Uplink. I think they got to go back and practice that map a little bit more. But I was really shocked after that powerful 2-0 start to watch them fold. The man of the hour, though, was Octane. Let's take a look at some of his numbers from last night. A 1.28. He's #1 overall right now in Season 3. His S&D game, not an amazing KD, but in Riot, like we said, he kind of took over 10-4. His Slayer numbers, 35 kills on average per 10 minutes.
That's silly.
And his hardpoint defense, once he's in there, he's actually able to stay alive for a bit. Also, a ridiculous uplink KD, 1.69. He is the clear player that is in charge of clearing lanes.
I mean, when Rustamania was going on, he was the one guy we looked at and said teams need to be running after him. And I feel like he was the perfect fit for Envy. He really was. Now they have that kind of solid AR that everyone else can play around. And so far, so good for him. He's having some great success.
I'm liking this Envy squad. They're looking dangerous so far. Big win on the night. Here's a look at our standings. After our first 3 nights of competition, Denial eSports sits on top at 2-0. Optic Gaming taking to game 5 on the first night, so that only a 66.7 map win percentage, but they're at 2-0. FaZe got their first win with a 3-0, the only team to go undefeated in map count. Then you got Optic Nation, of course. The heartbreaking loss to Envy puts them both at 1-1. Orbit's at 6th place after the big win, the comeback last night over Epsilon. And then you see the bottom half of the standings, Epsilon at the very bottom, 0-3. TK 1-2 right there with Isolation. TCM Gaming, you see the only team still looking to play a match.
Yeah, I'm excited because they kick off their Pro League debut this evening. So we finally get to see what have they got to bring to the table.
Absolutely. Before we get to TCM and talk about the FaZe Optic Gaming match that is right around the corner, we're going to be taking a peek at one of our new game modes. Benson is going to be breaking down Skyrise Search and Destroy when we return.
I'll paint out the sun.